Hello, welcome back to the Early Bar Football Podcast, episode 4. I think it is Thursday, the 12th of August. There's so much going on in the football world today, so it means another episode. And we'll jump straight in because we have about a million different topics. We were literally just going through them about 5 seconds ago and already started arguing on one of them. I say arguing, it was a polite discussion, I would say. But we'll start arguing. We'll ham it up for the air because that's what we do here. We're incredibly phony. With me is Tang, Barnes, and Leify. It's just us four this evening. So, you know, I was going to say four amigos. That doesn't work.
It can work. Make it work.
Four quarters. We'll move on. The good thing is when you're about 60 seconds in and you're already flagging, which is good. We'll start off talking about Romelu Lukaku. He has officially signed for Chelsea. Obviously, he's been doing the medical the last couple of days. I don't know if officially he's had like the whole shirt up at Chelsea. I know he's had shirt up in like Monaco and all this kind of stuff, but he signed with Chelsea. Tang, I mean, we've touched on it briefly before, but is this enough for Chelsea to actually win the league this year?
Well, when you consider the fact that their top scorer last year, I think, was Jorginho with like 7, and then it was like Mount on 6 and Werner on 6. You're getting a man who scores goals wherever he goes. I think I was looking at his stats. He pretty much gets a goal every 2 games or so. And if you add, 15, 20 goals to Chelsea's season, they're going to be right up there.
I think it'd be quite close. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the announcement video. The announcement video was like, welcome back. It just ignored Man United. Let's not talk about it.
I noticed that.
Let's not talk about it. We've got him from Inter Milan. Where did he go from Inter Milan from?
Don't worry about it.
None taken.
What? I don't. He just wasn't playing for a couple of years. He went on. He had a bit of a binge, got bigger, lost the weight, went to Italy. Changed things. Ash, what do you think? Is it? I mean, it's a lot of money. I think it's Chelsea's broke their record in signing Lukaku. Is he worth the money for you?
I'm going to say yes. I think isn't he the player who's been sold for the most transfer fees ever?
Yeah.
Like cumulatively. Unbelievable, but yeah, he's an excellent player, and I think it is. Even though it's taken him so long to get to Chelsea, get back there anyway, I think it is a good sign. Exactly what they need. He's going to score goals. Well, I think if Chelsea don't win the league, it's not going to be because Lukaku's let them down or he's not scored enough goals. He's a great player, and I think he's what I need. As I said on the pod the other day, surprised that City didn't go in for them, and Chelsea have been able to get him, but. There we are. I think that sets them up nicely to go on and really challenge for the league.
I think it's quite interesting when it comes to Lukaku as well, is that Chelsea, obviously, they were looking for a striker all this year, right? The rumours start off with Lewandowski, Bayern go no. They go on to Haaland, Dortmund say no. They say Lukaku, yes. And then in fairness to Chelsea, they get their deals done very quickly. Very, very quickly. They're very efficient. If they want a player and there's willingness to do it, they'll just do it. They'll do the deal. It's not like Man United, where it's like the worst game of poker and nobody in the end wins and they all end up bankrupt, and that similarly goes on. But I don't know. I think they're very efficient, and it is a good signing. I mean, Leif, as a Manchester United fan like myself, does it, sometimes we see ex-United players go to another club in a Premier League, a big club. Does it sort of make you feel a bit, I don't know, hesitant or sort of, I don't know, resentful that they might do well and hurt United?
No, I don't think. I think Lukaku is a good sign for Chelsea. I agree with what Tang and Ash just said. It's exactly what they need in terms of goals and clinical threat at the top. I just don't think he was a fit for United. I don't think he ever was going to. There's no, yeah. I don't feel resentful towards it. In terms of value for money, I don't think there's much sell-on value with that signing. I think he's 28, 95 million. What is it? Probably going to be a 4-year deal at least.
2026, I think, yeah, something like that.
There's not much salon value with that deal. I don't think they're going to be able to see any of that money back. I don't think Chelsea worry too much about that. No. Whether he will be the final piece in the puzzle that pushes Chelsea to the top of the league, I still don't think so. I think there's a lot of pundits are a bit optimistic of what one signing at Chelsea is going to do. And a lot of BBC pundits have got them Chelsea at top. It baffles me a little bit.
Yeah,
I can see them being up there and it being tight, but I just don't think, considering where they finished last year, was it 4th?
I mean, and they shouldn't have finished 4th. Let's be honest.
Well,
they fell over the line last year. Completely.
I know they're improving. They got good squad depth, and then people have got United in 4th, not even finishing in the top 4 or 4th place. Who finished second last year.
It's agenda's life. It's agendas.
Yeah, agendas. Sick of it.
Yeah, sick
That's
of
for
it,
the
agendas.
addition of Varane and Sancho, and Chelsea had the addition of Lukaku. It's a great addition, but I don't understand all this massive
They won the
optimism
Champions
around
League,
Chelsea.
though.
Yeah, they wanted. Yeah,
But I think the thing is with
There's
that though,
nothing, it doesn't matter.
when they say, but the thing is though, when you say that though, for me at this point, when you say, well, they won the Champions League, it quite literally is a different competition. We've seen that in the past. People win the Champions League. I mean, nothing when it comes to league football. It's kind of a bit of the falsehood, isn't it? That whoever wins the Champions League is the best team in Europe. Most of the time, it's not. You know, realistically.
I think they will be. It's definitely going to be tight. I just don't understand this blind sort of optimism around Chelsea all of a sudden. But I think they definitely will be up there. I just think they still will finish behind United and City.
Yeah, and the thing is with the United one as well. I mean, this isn't a United podcast, but like, I think as a Manchester, well, is it not? End the podcast now. Now, as a Manchester United fan, I don't think any really United fans are saying that because we signed Varane and Sancho, that means we're going to win the league. I think everyone's realistic enough to say we still need more. We still need a defensive midfielder. We still need just better squad depth in general. But I don't think anyone's saying, "Oh, we're still going to struggle to make top four," because we didn't last year, and we have improved.
We're better than last year.
We're better than last year, and I know other people have improved as well, and that's par for the course. But I agree with you. I think that. Maybe people just like to write Man United off. It gets clicks. You know, people like Sal's headlines, Sal's papers, whatever you want to say. But speaking of Chelsea as well, we'll talk about the Super Cup because the Super Cup was last night, and for a game that we weren't really aware that was actually going to happen the day before, it was actually a very good game. Now, from my own point of view, and then I'll put it to you guys, I felt that Chelsea last night, certainly in the second half. I remember I put it in the chat. I felt that they still looked off it. And I understand it's essentially a preseason game, but I didn't see that game last night from my point of view of being like, oh, if they've got Lukaku, they are really, really, really strong. Because second half, I thought Villarreal were very good. And I thought they were very unfortunate. I mean, Tang, what did you think of the game last night?
I don't have much to add because I didn't actually watch the game.
Good.
So, incredible insight from me.
Good.
I saw the highlights.
This is why I wanted you on the podcast. This is why I wanted you on. I thought there's nobody.
It's what I do.
Nobody has this kind of insight as to what did you think of the game? I don't know. Was it even on?
We were recording this last night's podcast episode. Then the game was on. I was making dinner. It was chicken, broccoli, and rice.
Yeah, that's quite entertaining. That's entertaining.
By the time I'd done that, the game had pretty much finished.
That's entertaining.
So that's all I have to add on the topic.
Well, no, I'll double down on that. I'm not let this go. Broccoli, was it nice? How did you cook it? Did you just steam it?
So the chicken beforehand, you've got to marinate it. Obviously, I'm putting some oil in there.
Okay.
Got some garlic in there as well. Obviously,
I would think. Well, how are you marinating it? Because if you're putting it in oil, you've got to be careful. That's going to start spitting relatively quickly.
Yeah, but that's what you do when you're a chef like me. You've got to deal with that sort of thing, and it's a small price to pay for taste, Owen.
That's a good point. Are we still talking about food or?
Yeah.
Who knows?
What's the broccoli? You didn't say about the broccoli.
Yeah, I asked you the question about broccoli. You just skirt around that like a politician.
I don't think I think he's nervous.
I don't think he had it. I think lies.
No, broccoli. You just you chop up. Obviously, you chop it into different sizes.
You had a whole head of broccoli.
Yeah, a whole head, obviously.
Like an apple.
Yeah, and just pop it in the pan with the chicken. Obviously, the chicken's getting some juices flowing. And it all just merges into one.
I thought you would have just boiled it or something like that. Boiled it.
Put it in the frying pan. It's boiled. Broccoli is the target man. You put it in the mixer, and things happen.
Well, I don't like broccoli, but we'll move on.
Wow. Okay, move on.
Barnes, did you watch the game last night?
No. I feel like I want to talk about broccoli.
If not, what did you have for dinner?
I managed to catch the second half of extra time, but on the Super Cup in general, it's a bit of a glorified friendly, isn't it? Like, I wouldn't worry. I don't think Chelsea's performance in the Super Cup is any reflection on what they might be like come the opening weekend. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But they didn't look great, did they? Especially later on in the game, they seemed to be flagging. Villarreal seemed to be coming into control, but they won it, I suppose. If you're a Chelsea fan, you'll be pleased, but no one really cares about the Super Cup, do they? So
it's one of those ones, isn't it? Like it's like the Community Shield. Like if you lose it, it's a pre-season game. Who cares about it? If you win, you go, it's a trophy. Full Manager, it's a trophy.
Yeah.
You will take
Mourinho
that.
said it was a trophy for United.
Oh yeah, you will take it. You will take
Winning mentality.
Exactly. And they all count. I mean, Leif, I do know that you did watch it.
I did. You'd be glad to know.
Yes, that's good. What did you think? And what did you have for dinner?
I don't remember actually last night. Nothing major. I enjoyed the game. I thought it was a good game of football. So I was quite surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think what I did highlight was Chelsea's strength and depth. Strength and depth. I thought they in the second half, you realise in the players that weren't on the pitch, you're like, wow, they have got a lot of depth in that squad. Jorginho, Mount weren't playing. Pulisic wasn't on the pitch. Lukaku to come in. Thiago Silva not in that team. So it definitely did highlight their strength and depth in the squad. I was quite impressed with the young centre-back for Chelsea, Trevor Chalobah. I thought he was arguably the man of the match. I thought he was fantastic. Dealing with Gerard Moreno, who's a handful. He's a good striker. He's a great goal as well. I thought Chelsea started well. They definitely faded in the second half. Looked rusty. Villarreal also looked rusty. I was saying it was gone are the days where Spanish teams, you were sort of almost guaranteed a team that was going to keep possession, pass out from the back. Watching Villarreal pass out from the back with Raul Albiol was like winning district standard at times. It was Van Foyth. I was quite impressed with Van Foyth though. Yeah. I was impressed with Van Foyth. It surprised me that Spurs let him go.
He put that in the group chat. He went, really like Van Foyth tonight. Really surprised to let him go.
Well, I'm surprised. He's looking at Spurs' team, and he was pretty. He played right back. He put in the right of the back three, played in defensive midfield, and I thought he excelled in each and one of those positions. But I think overall Chelsea probably deserved it. Villarreal pushed in the second half and were a lot better in the second half going forward. But yeah, it was an enjoyable game to watch.
Yeah, I from what I saw, because I was like Tang said, we were recording, and then I went straight into editing. And even though this is how like my memory is like a sieve, even though we talked about it, I forgot it was on. So then I realized it was on because Leif was in the group chat going, "Oh, Van Foyth, isn't Van Foyth great?" And I was going, "I think he's lost his mind." Because he's just got off about how much he loves Van Foyth, which is a weird tick. But like you said, Leif, I enjoyed the game. I did put in the chat as well. I think it's worth pointing out that like Unai Emery got a lot of stick for the Arsenal, whatever you want to call it. But he's not a bad coach, is he? Like people give him a lot of stick, and they did the whole good evening stuff. But let's be honest, how many times has he won the Europa League? He out tacticked Man United last season, like he did us. You know, they played for penalties and they won on penalties. And especially in the second half, I mean, they really took it to Chelsea. I think when did they finish last season in La Liga? Was it like 10th or something ridiculous? Yeah. And they're in the Champions League this season. I think they'll do all right. They'll end up in the Europa League at least. I think
it was, that's what I said. It was a different view of a Spanish side. They were in the second half. They were resilient and industrious. They covered the pitch over that second half. They really did work hard to get back into the game.
They're far more pragmatic than you would expect a Spanish side to be, wouldn't you?
And like I said, second half they really did deserve to be back in the game. So it's just a very different view of a Spanish team that I've had in previous years.
And we'll talk about the penalties because, of course, it did go to penalty shootout and Chelsea won on penalties. First of all, before we talk about the whole goalkeeper thing, as a Manchester United fan, it was incredibly frustrating to see how many bad penalties Villarreal did, considering they did like 11 perfect penalties against us. Suddenly last night, they're struggling for penalties. It was so frustrating. But the big story, of course, was right at the end of extra time yesterday. You had Mendy be substituted for Kepa, which a lot of people were outraged by. This really frustrated me. You could tell by the tweets I was putting out at Mr. Owen MUFC on Twitter, by the way. Chrissy's not here, but we'll get the Twitter plug in. That so many people were outraged. You saw the people on BT Sport go, I can't believe this. I can't believe they would substitute the goalkeepers. First of all, the players can't win as well because Mendy had no issue, came off, Kepa comes on. They're going, I can't believe he wasn't angry. If Kepa comes off flapping his hands going, I can't believe it, and kicks Thomas Tuchel, they'll go, oh, how disrespectful. She's like, you can't win either way in that situation. But they're going, I can't believe it. It's a massive slap in the face of Mendy. All this kind of stuff. Kepa goes in for the penalty shootout, saves a couple of penalties. They win. Oh, what a great decision. Thomas Tuchel, you're a genius. He must know the players better than we do. Of course he does. He's a Chelsea manager. Of course he knows the players better than you. If I know the Chelsea players better than Thomas Tuchel, then I should have his job, because that's so if I want to sound like Roy Keane, that is your job. Your job is to know the players. And he came out afterwards. Thomas Tuchel said, "Yeah, we discussed it ages ago. Like when I first came in, we had a League Cup game, and we said at the time, here's the data. Kepa's better at penalties than you. If it goes to penalty shootout, Kepa's going to be in the penalty shootout. That's it. End of. Discussed. Done." So I didn't really see it, and it infuriated me. At the end of the day, it won the trophy. I mean, what did you think, Tang, about that whole substitute goalkeepers for penalties?
I didn't even know if you were going to bring me in. I mean, you can tell you're a goalkeeper. You absolutely fuming. You're just ranting there.
Wow,
it was really nice to see.
This is the thing. It's got nothing to do with goalkeepers, just a lot of repressed anger.
I like it when goalkeepers come on. We obviously saw it with Louis van Gaal and Tim Krul ages ago. And it's no different to someone bringing on a striker or someone who's good at taking penalties.
Exactly.
It's the same principle. I don't know why there's this extra fanfare because it's a goalkeeper. It's a non-issue for me.
Yeah, I agree. In the same vein that you would have some people that are really good at penalties. Like for me, penalties, irrespective of if you're taking it or you're the goalkeeper trying to save it, it's a speciality. You're either really good at it or you're not that good at it. David De Gea is not very good at saving penalties. That's just the case. And lots of Man United fans were saying that last year. Get him off. He's not very good at saving penalties. For instance, myself, not to my own horn, but when I was playing, I had a pretty good penalty record. Not a bad penalty record, but other parts of goalkeeping, I was crap. Asked me to kick a ball, nightmare. All right. Asked me to save it with my hands, like a wizard, because wizards save penalties.
Couldn't save mine though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was the thing when it comes to penalties. This, for me, when I was in goal for penalties, and people can talk about the statistics, where they like to go. That was like the worst thing for me. So whenever Leif had a penalty against me, I very rarely saved it because I knew where he liked to go. Then you start to get into your own head. For me, it was always a case of I'd rather not know anything. And I didn't really try and read the player. I didn't even do that. I didn't even try and go, he looks like he's going to go to the left. Because you can't
It'd be interesting to see your record, actually. You
don't want to get involved in all that kind of. Just pick your side. Go, I'm going to go here. And then if it doesn't go there, it's like, when you're doing like a test or an exam and it's multi-choice and you realize you don't know anything, you go, I haven't done a D in a while. D. That's what it's like sometimes with penalties. That's what it's like with penalties. You just go, I haven't gone to that side. I'll go to that side. That's about it. I mean, what did you think, Barnes? Was it a mountain out of a molehill, as they say?
I think so. I mean, I agree with Tang. I mean, it's the drama. You see a keeper warming up. It's the 119th minute or whatever. Keeper's warming up. Fans are loving it. I mean, you've got to love a keeper coming on for penalties. And the Tim Krul one, I think, is a great example. The thing I would bring up about this specific one that's maybe got a slightly different, that's added a bit of drama was Kepa last time he was in a similar situation when Maurizio Sarri tried to bring Kepa off. Was it in the League Cup final? Was it a few years ago?
Caballero.
And he refused to come off. So I think sort of the roles being reversed and Kepa actually coming on for Mendy is an interesting one. And Kepa's kind of been completely. This happens with goalkeepers, isn't it? They have a bad season. They make mistakes. They get completely written off. They're the worst player ever. Like Sanon, Kepa's the most expensive goalkeeper ever. He can't be that bad. And you know better than anyone, Owen, how much goalkeepers are. It's a confidence position. If you lose confidence, then you ain't saving much, and you're in trouble.
Exactly.
I think he's just lacked confidence over the last few years, and people are very quick to write off goalkeepers. But I encourage more substitution of goalkeepers with penalties. It's great fun.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Kepa, I'm not the biggest Kepa fan, to be honest. I've said to people that I know that are Chelsea fans that after even a couple of games for Chelsea, I wasn't sure that he was. Well, it wasn't up to snuff, but let's just face it, he cost like 70 million, and that is incredibly overpriced, incredibly inflated. That was the release clause. They panicked because they lost Courtois at the time. They needed a goalkeeper. They signed him with like 2 weeks to go before the season. So they just needed someone they could get guaranteed. So they got Kepa. He obviously isn't worth 70 million. I mean, he's the most expensive backup goalkeeper ever because he's not playing this season. I think Mendy is a better goalkeeper than him. And I think what you're saying is right, Barnes. I think he just looks more confident, more assured. I think physically he's stronger than Kepa. And even though it's a bit of an archaic mindset of goalkeepers in the Premier, certainly in the Premier League, but you still do need that element of physicality in the Premier League when it comes to goalkeepers, because I don't know if it's just an English or British mentality when it comes to strikers. I mean, I used to have it when I was in goal. The amount of elbows you get or the amount of times of early couple minutes, put a cross in, they'll openly foul you with no interest at getting the ball just to leave a bit on you. Then afterwards, you don't come out for a cross and they score. It's like that is the gamesmanship of football, isn't it? I mean, what did you think, Leif, about it all? I know that sometimes we've had our discussions about goalkeeping sort of philosophy on certain aspects. What did you think about it?
Well, I agree with substituting goalkeepers. If the goalkeeper's a specialist, and I've seen for myself, because some goalkeepers just can't save penalties, and some keepers can. It's exactly the same as bringing on a good penalty taker. I think it's understated as well what it can do to the other team mentally as well.
Yeah,
it's if I'm personally on the other team and I see a keeper coming on as a specialist for penalties, it's going to play havoc with your mindset. You're definitely going to approach the penalty slightly differently. So yeah, I'm all for it. I don't see the big hoo-ha about it. Like you said, it's they're going mad at Kepa when he didn't come off and massively disrespectful, and then when they do make a substitution of a keeper, that's crazy. So pundits talk a lot hot air sometimes.
Yeah, you can't win. I mean, as a United fan, though, because this isn't a Manchester United podcast,
it's not.
Does it? Obviously, it was the same team that we lost to in a penalty shootout as well. Does it sort of? Do you think it made Ole look bad? Because a lot of people were saying at the time in that final of he should take De Gea off because he's not.
Well,
good
we
at
all know
penalties.
De Gea is not great at penalties. I don't know whether. I think sometimes you can look like the mastermind either way. Sometimes if you kept De Gea on, it's difficult with penalties. It is a bit of a lottery. It's the same way, but in the Euros for Southgate, and you brought on them players, and on another day that could have been an absolute masterstroke. So you can't look too much into what goes on with penalties, I don't think.
No, I agree. I think I don't know. It's easy to say after the fact, isn't it? I should have. Should have. Well, yeah, we lost.
Yeah,
so, exactly. We'll switch gears here and talk about a signing that was actually predicted last night. Chrissy did mention last night on the podcast that Leicester were circling Vestergaard looking for a centre back, and indeed they have signed him for a fee that I don't think is particularly high. I think it's like under 20 million. What did you think, Tang, about this one? We mentioned when we spoke about relegation, I think was that yesterday, we spoke about relegation predictions. A lot of people said Southampton because they're selling, and even the people they're bringing in just aren't up to snuff. I mean, how damaging of a blow is this one for Southampton?
Well, I actually had a look at Southampton's defenders that they have now that Vestergaard has gone to Leicester. They have Jan Bednarak, they have Jack Stevens, and they also have someone called Mohamed Salisu, who I've done some research on. In 2012 and 2013, he played for the Kumasi Barcelona Babies.
Good side.
That's what I'm going to add to this conversation.
Babies.
The Babies, yeah.
How many years ago was that?
Under 2012.
It was 2012. So what's he? 14? Something like
that? He's like 22 now. So that's so he was young. But it leaves.
What country is that in? Is that like Spanish?
Ghana. It's Ghana.
All right, I was going to say.
Maybe that's
so nothing to do with Barcelona.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to the main point, it leaves Southampton very short at the back, and they were sort
he's a
of,
big guy.
I know, massive.
Yeah.
But who are they going to get in? That's the thing. And I sort of tipped them to be, they're going to be down there. You fear for Southampton is what you would say, as opposed to they'll be all right. You do fear for Southampton now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a strange one as well. I mean, I don't know how many years he had left on his contract, but I'm just really surprised how readily they just, yeah, sure, we'll sell him. Like, that just seems really odd. I mean, what do you make of it, Barnes?
Yeah, so on the contract situation, I'm pretty sure he was going into his last, I think he's got maybe a year and a half.
Right.
Maximum 2 years. So, and he wasn't, apparently he wasn't planning on renewing. I suppose with Southampton defenders, it's hard to say that they're too good when they've lost, they conceded 9 goals in, 2 games in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's played. But actually, no, he got sent off, didn't he, on the first one, I think, after like 5 minutes or something like that. He is a good player. I thought he played quite well in the Euros, actually, when he came on. He's quite slow, he's quite big, he's really slow, quite old school. So I think he'll quite suit Leicester. But I suppose if his contract is running down and you get, is it 20 million the fee, something like that? I don't think that's the worst fee ever for Southampton. Just depends on if they're not planning on replacing him, then that's a huge error, or they're in trouble. If they get someone in, I don't see it as potentially the worst. Southampton like to play quite pressing football, if I remember as well. And he's not really that guy.
Yeah, I think he's gone in and out of the team. In fairness to like Hasenhüttl, you don't see him as like a ball playing centre half or anything like that, do you? Like, I think there's criticism in the past he's been quite clumsy. I don't know if that's just pure judgment because he's a big guy. Very clumsy. I mean, what do you think? What do you think, Leif? I mean, you used to play centre back, so what do you think about Vestergaard?
I think I'm really impressed with Vestergaard. I think that's an absolute steal. Of what I've seen with him, I think he can play out from the back quite well. I think there's times where he has overplayed and got in trouble, but he's definitely building on that side of his game as well. What I've watched of him, he's physical. He's quite quick as well. I know he's a big guy. People can assume that he's quite slow, but he can cover ground quite quick. I know it's a big shout, but he does remind me of Van Dijk a little bit, the way his presence at the back, and he's good in one-on-one situations. And when I've seen him with Southampton, he's come out from the back with the ball quite comfortably. I think with Leicester, obviously, it's reactionary from the Fofana injury.
Yeah.
And they did need to get another centre half, but it's not just a sort of panic buy to get someone in. This is a really good signing for them, I think. And when Fofana does come back, that's 4 really top centre halves in Evans, Soyuncu, Vestergaard, and Fofana.
No, I think it's a very. I don't know if I could have seen him maybe at like a higher club than say a Leicester. I think that's I think that's a perfect signing for a Leicester. I think that's probably his ceiling. I think for 20 million in today's market, you can't really argue for that, can you? I mean, it's a perfect segue actually, because we talk about 20 million being a good amount of money. There is an update when it comes to Harry Kane and Manchester City, because Fabrizio Romano reported today in an exclusive that reportedly Manchester City are willing to go back with a new offer for Harry Kane should Spurs be willing to listen to offers, reportedly for 150 million euros. So what did that come to in about pounds? Probably like, 120 maybe-ish?
Yeah, it's around 120.
I mean, before I pass it to you, Tang, I will say that if Pep Guardiola ever does another press conference that says I've just got no money, guys. I just don't have any money. Today's prices. How can I afford? I don't know why he's Italian. How can I afford these? How can I afford these players at these prices? We just got no money. First of all, no one ever bought that ever. You're Manchester City. You're owned by a country. You know let's get that out of the way. 1, 2. You go, we don't have any money. And then you spend 100 million on Jack Grealish. I'm not saying Jack Grealish isn't worth it. It's a lot of money. And then you go back to buy Harry Kane for like 120 million pounds. I mean, do you think Tang that Spurs would even still consider it? Would they accept that?
We know Daniel Levy. You know, when it comes to deals and stuff, he drives a hard deal. I hear a car. Leif's now gone off screen. But yeah, no, he drives a hard deal. I would definitely get into a point of it's all right, Leif, don't worry. I'd definitely get into a point of if City are trying to sell Laporte, can they not use? Why wouldn't Tottenham go for him? Tottenham have a very aging defence, as we know. I think it would be a good deal if Laporte wants to stay in England. Maybe. Well, I mean, he probably won't want to go to Spurs.
That's what I was going to say. The issue is convincing him of the Spurs project.
I think that could be an option, obviously, and then that takes off 40-50 million potentially off that price tag. But I would say something very interestingly. You're obviously Spurs, Man City, in the first game of the season. Are we going to see when players don't celebrate against their former clubs? Are we going to see something where Kane doesn't celebrate against his future club? Very interesting. Can you imagine that?
It's possible. I mean, I think
Roy Keane will be fuming.
I think stuff not like that, but I'm pretty sure we probably seen on a couple of occasions of people because there's obviously been situations where someone starts the actual Premier League season and by the end of the window they've moved somewhere else, and that's always just very awkward, especially when you know that they're going to leave. It's like, remember when Gareth Bale went to Madrid, yet he played some games in pre-season with Spurs. And it felt a bit redundant at the time of you're going to leave. Everyone knows you're leaving. Spurs are actively buying your replacements at the moment. So maybe. I mean, Barnes, what do you think? Do you think Kane's going to get his wish? Even though he wasn't on strike, by the way. He was just on holiday. Definitely wasn't on strike, according to him.
It was only an extra week. It was planned.
Yeah, I was on holiday all the time. What are you talking about? No way.
Nothing serious. I've not spoken to Nuno yet. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
he's just a new manager.
They fined me for no reason because it was already planned.
just to scare off the papers, we just sold him a dream there. But yeah, I don't know about this. 100 million pounds. To be honest, from my perspective, this doesn't reflect modern football, but it's not, as a phrase is quite often used in the transfer market, it's not good business. Signing a 28-year-old for 150 million euros is not good business. I mean, if you're Manchester City, and you have, or PSG, these, we were talking about PSG the other day, and, they ruining football, signing Messi, it was so bleak. And in Manchester City, they're not much different. They're no different. They're signing, £100 million on Grealish. Now they're 120 million on Harry Kane. It's madness. And, if they give him a 5-year contract on massive wages, he's quite injury prone. He's an injury away from, obviously he's going to score goals for Manchester. Whoever plays up front for Manchester, they could sign Andy Carroll on a free transfer and he'd probably get 20 goals. Like,
that's a big statement.
Up front, anyone who plays up front for Man City is, if they start every game, they're going to score a lot of goals. They create so many chances. And a player like Kane is just going to score so many goals. But at that price, I don't see it as being good business. But yeah, I suppose from a City point of view, they need a striker, and Harry Kane is, he's flirting with them, isn't he? So,
counterpoint, if they do sign Harry Kane and they win the Champions League, does it even matter how much money they spend, because they finally achieved what they wanted to and they won the Champions League? What do you think about that?
Well, how far do you go with that? If they spent, 400 million on players.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about this price. I'm talking about this price.
Well, it's easy to say. Like, if you win, then you can justify anything. We won the league and Champions League, I can justify signing any signing or whatever. It's like Sir Alex Ferguson made some absolutely horrendous signings at Manchester United, as you know, occasionally, and it didn't come off, and they won the league anyway because he was a great manager and great team, great other players. But you wouldn't be like, I signed in and then we won, so it was a great signing. So I don't think it doesn't necessarily reflect because you sign one person. I mean, if he scores 40 goals or he scores a hat-trick in the Champions League final, then I think you could sort of fairly say that he has heavily contributed to that. But yeah, I'm not sure I'd buy the whole KC being a sort of amazing, sort of great signing. But that's just modern football, isn't it? That's how it's going. Huge money for players.
Interesting. Leif, what would you say? Do you think he's going to actually get his move to see? I mean, what he signed a 6-year contract? He's made it very difficult for himself, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of a silly move, that the 6-year contract. Obviously, I think he thought that Tottenham were going to progress a bit more, win a few more trophies, or win a trophy. I would say that it's something Man City need, and I would say that a signing like Harry Kane can be the difference between winning the league title, winning Champions League. We've seen it at United with Van Persie. I think without that Van Persie signing, we wouldn't have won the league that year. I do think this could be the difference in Man City. They're certainly crying out for a striker. I would be surprised because they needed a striker when they had Aguero, so they're desperate for a striker. And I can see this one stretching on towards the end of the transfer market. And I saw the closer it gets to the end of the window, the more likely City are just to fork out the money.
Even with that though, that you still need, if you're Spurs, I mean, would they sell him and not?
Yeah,
exactly. It takes time, doesn't it?
Well, the links with that Martinez from Inter, and they're still adamant that is to play up the top with Kane. I can't see that being the case. I think if they'll get Martinez or try and go for Martinez or another striker, I can see Kane going. I guess Man City desperately need a striker, and Kane, I think, desperately wants to go to Man City. So
I mean, put it this way: when we've played games of FM, and I will know for a fact you would absolutely pay 150 million euros to buy Harry Kane. 100%, and he would add on about
200 million add-ons.
Yeah, about 200 million worth of add-ons as well. So I mean,
you got to get the players in. You got to get the players in to win what you want to win. I mean, really, if I was a City fan, I wouldn't care.
Exactly.
Sometimes I don't really understand why fans care too much about transfer fee. Let them do it. If they want to sign up for that amount of money, if it's within FFP, which is probably not, let them crack on. If you want the best players in your team.
I mean, so say you're like, it's a difficult analogy to make because there aren't many players out there that you'd have to spend a load of money to get. But say from a Man United's point of view, say if Haaland didn't have that release clause next season and it was like Man United are going to have to spend 150 million pounds to sign Haaland, and they did it, I wouldn't care.
He'd be more worth it as well with Salon value. He's 20. He's young.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Haaland arguably is really well. I can get what Ash is saying. At 28, it's a big money signing. Yeah, he's finished.
Exactly.
A big money signing for someone who's probably another 4 or 5 years coming towards the end of his career. So yeah, it's I can. Why not? If they get Harry Kane, then that'll be incredible.
The interesting thing, though, isn't it, with Harry Kane is that, so you mentioned there that even with Aguero, they need a striker. Aguero guaranteed he's out for 3 months every single season. So is Harry Kane. Harry Kane don't do a whole season, is he? So you kind of, not they're getting like for like, but in terms of the Premier League, I guess you kind of are. You're getting someone that's going to be around, 2/3 of the season, probably, score a lot of goals. I mean, arguably, is there even much of a, I don't want to say there's much of a difference between Kane and Aguero because they're different players, but in terms of what you're getting in terms of goals, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think it's a really interesting one. But anyway, we're running out of time, so we'll move on. We'll talk about something that's this was the one that was getting very interesting in the pre-show, there's this survey that's come out, and I'll get it on the screen. If you're watching this, if you're listening to it in audio form, go to the channel and you can see it. I'll move the banner down. There you go. There was a survey done by Sky Bet, and it was about who is the best Premier League manager, and it caught my eye on social media. So I'm not going to read out every single name, but the big sort of headlines are, as to be expected, I suppose. Pep Guardiola's got the most votes. He's got 37.74% worth of the vote. Then comes Jurgen Klopp, Marcelo Bielsa, and Brendan Rodgers in the top 4. Ironically, underneath that is Sean Dyche, and then Thomas Tuchel, then David Moyes. I said I wasn't going to read it all out, but it's crazy. Then Nuno Espirito Santo, then Graham Potter, then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who got less than 2%. And people said that Graham Potter and Nuno Espirito Santo and David Moyes was a better manager than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We'll talk about all of that. I guess the big one as well is that Mikel Arteta got less than 1%. He got the second least amount of votes behind the new Wolves manager, Bruno. How do you say it? Is it Lager?
Let's go with Lager.
Lager. Bruno Lager.
Oh, nice.
Bruno Lager, nice. So there's lots to pick out there. Myself,
a lot to pick out.
There's a lot to pick out. This is why I think it was a good topic to talk about, because I think it's crazy. I think it's absolute craziness. But first of all, before I move on to you, Tang, because I've said this a couple of times, and I've had some disagreements about this. I think it's madness that people can actually say that David Moyes is a better manager than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, especially when we're talking about the Premier League. Now, I know people are going to say, well, look, he's had a lot of success in the Premier League. That's debatable. That's debatable. Right? Yes, he was at Everton for all those years, did great at Everton. Great. They finished in the top 4 once. They didn't even qualify for the Champions League, by the way. They went out in the qualifiers to Villarreal that year, got to the semi-finals against Arsenal as well. That's the kind of knowledge we bring to you on this podcast. But then you want to say that Moyes is better manager than Solskjaer. If you're going to compare them in the jobs they've both done at Manchester United, Moyes was gone after 8 months because we were, like 9th in the league or something like that? And Solskjaer, he is doing a better job than David Moyes in that same club. Now, I suppose the counterpoint to that would be, well, he was terrible at Cardiff, but that's Cardiff. If you want to talk about relegations, David Moyes got relegated as well with Sunderland. So I just think that's such a ludicrous. I think this whole thing is crazy, to be honest with you. Nevertheless, Tang, what do you think? What stands out to you there?
There's so much to unpick. Firstly, this survey was conducted by Sky Bet, and they are the font of all knowledge. Let's just say that to begin with.
Oh yeah, it's gamblers. People are gambling.
There's so many counterpoints, and football fans are fickle. You can talk about who's better than who. The 0% for Bruno Lage is huge, but also I love the 0.76% who thought Zisco, the new Watford manager, is the best Premier League manager.
Watford fan, hasn't it? It's got to be a Watford.
There are some die-hard Watford fans in there that I think Zisco is going to do the job for them, even though he'll be gone next week, or maybe by the time this pod comes out, who knows?
Exactly. That's tomorrow's talking point.
And also, Graham Potter is the greatest manager in the Premier League. Pep Guardiola said it, so.
Even that is crazy to me. They've said that Graham Potter is better than Rafa Benitez.
Have you seen his expected goals though?
I don't care, but they didn't score. It's just, I mean, what did he do? What did he do at Swansea? I mean, don't get me wrong. He did a great job in Sweden, and that was kind of like an FM story come to life because he was at this 3rd division club in Sweden, gets the Europa League, he's scoring goals against Arsenal. That's great. But to say that he's a better manager than Solskjaer or Rafa Benitez, I think even Hasenhüttl gets a lot of stick. He came second in the Bundesliga. Yeah. Like that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. I mean, what do you think, Barnes? Because when I said earlier about the whole Moyes thing, you disagreed with me, and it's good that we can address this on there because I bit my tongue. I'm interested to see what you say about this one.
So I want to say about this table, I think the best way you can look at it is to say, if this manager was to leave their current club, what club could they go to? Because that is their current ability. They are likely to go to this club. If you sacked David Moyes, or if David Moyes left West Ham tomorrow, I think he'd get a similar job in the Premier League. I think it maybe back to Everton, maybe a Palace, that kind of level. Is that fair? Fair to say?
I think it's interesting you said that Everton's the same as Palace. Again, going in on Everton.
Oh, no.
Yeah, if Ollie got sacked or left Manchester United, I cannot see him going to a club that's a high level. I don't know what you think about that, but I can't see it. I don't know who would have it.
I think an Everton would have
another top 6 club. Everton would have him.
Yeah.
But that's the same as Moyes. He's not way better. I don't think it's something to get that angry about that David Moyes is higher than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, where would you put Solskjaer and Leif?
Above David Moyes.
I'd put him above. I mean, David Moyes, before he was at West Ham this last go around, I mean, after the whole Sunderland thing, he was barely employable. We're talking about West Ham. West Ham didn't want to give him like a full year contract. They gave him like 6 months. Even when he was back the last time, they went, well, to the end of the season because we're desperate and we need someone. But, David, we don't want to have you long-term at the club. He had a good season last season, but when it comes to David Moyes, there is a realistic possibility he could be gone in like 3 or 4 months because they just completely, disappear and play, old-fashioned football again or whatever. I just think, I don't know. I think it's crazy. I mean, what do you think, Leif?
I find it incredibly hard to decipher it, to be honest, and I think it's absolute nonsense. It's probably worth ignoring. But
it's good that we got it for a topic then.
Yeah. But only way I can see Moyes being above Solskjaer currently is the best manager in the Premier League. Is it the best manager in the Premier League now, or is it how? Because if Moyes is above Solskjaer for what he's done in the past with Everton, you can kind of understand that he's done a brilliant job at Everton and maybe done more in the Premier League than Solskjaer over the years. But then that doesn't make sense if Xisco, Vieira and Thomas Frank have never managed in the Premier League are now above Steve Bruce.
Yeah,
who's done some decent jobs in the Premier League.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I don't really know what to think of it, to be honest. I can probably agree top 2. I mean, you said top 3. Bielsa's a good manager.
Yes, I think Bielsa's a good manager. He signed a new contract with Leeds today, by the way.
Yeah, I mean Leeds wouldn't be where they are without.
Exactly.
I'd put him top. I'd put him top of that list, Marcelo Bielsa. Just on pure entertainment. I just think
I don't think that's the list, though. Actually,
Pep Guardiola is influenced by Marcelo Bielsa. I don't think if Pep came in at Leeds in the Championship, do you think he could have got? Do you think anyone could have done what Marcelo Bielsa?
Are you saying now that Bielsa's the best manager in the Premier League?
Yeah, I mean, are you saying he's the best manager in the Prem? You're comfortable saying that?
He's the most entertaining manager in the Prem. And he has influenced the best managers in the Prem, which would be Pep and Klopp. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But I think that's a fair enough top 3, those 3.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. You're probably right. The Solskjaer being so low is it's an agenda.
I mean, when you start saying as well, like Sean Dyche is better than Thomas Tuchel. Guy just won Champions League. I mean,
Thomas. I know that
Sean Dyche because he saved Burnley from relegation for a few years is just as good as someone that's won the Champions League. He has done a great job, but who would you rather have as your manager of Chelsea? I mean, I think
it's David Moyes.
Oh yeah, David Moyes. I think the thing that this is why it came to my attention is because a lot of Arsenal fans are pointing out. I mean, and Arteta's on the screen there is because Arteta is second from bottom. I mean, I'll open up. I mean, Tang, what do you think about that one? Do you think Arteta is the second worst manager in the league?
No, I don't think he is. I think Arsenal Chris has said it before, and I'm sure Lynchy has the same sentiment. Arsenal are a bang average club at the minute. And they have been for a long time. Wenger did a superb job with them. Yeah. And it's a case of you don't realise what you've got until you've lost it. I think he's doing an okay job. It's not the best job. I think he's doing an okay job for what he's got. He's got a lot of deadwood that he's gradually getting rid of. And obviously getting future Ballon d'Or winner Ben White in is only gonna be better.
That dead wood. I mean, this is the issue sometimes I have of Arsenal is I agree. They've got very average players at that club, and they're, to be honest, it's a very average side. But for an average side, a lot of wages go on that very average side. That's the crazy thing for me is that, if you do want to talk about, and I don't think that's Arteta's fault, but I would say he's the second worst manager. I mean, what would you say, Bayern? Second worst manager in the league?
I mean, we've all said it. I mean, this is a bit of fun. It's fun to talk about, but it's all arbitrary, isn't it? It's all rubbish, really. Like, there's no way you can, rank these properly. He's probably not. Let's face it. He's been with Pep at City. He's I know it doesn't mean much. He's well renowned in the game. So I think second bottom is probably unfair. As Tang said, this Arsenal team, they're not great. That's not to say Arteta hasn't made mistakes and things like that, but second from bottom is extremely reactionary. But there's Arsenal. There's a lot of negativity around them this season. I think this list sort of reflects that. One thing I would say about this list that we didn't mention about Cisco is he did win the Georgian Super Cup in 2014. That completely justifies.
Well, I mean, that says a lot of stuff. Get him up the list. Get him up the
Ballon d'Or for managers.
Yeah, get him up the list. God, I mean, what do you reckon, Leif? Quickly before we move on to our final topic.
So it's incredibly harsh.
Yeah, I think so.
It's definitely not second worst manager in the league. I think he's been there, 3 years, and he did win the FA Cup.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, not second worst, definitely not.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll move on to the final topic. And I suppose it actually does stick to Arsenal, which is probably good. The Premier League season kicks off tomorrow with a Friday night football, which I'll be totally honest, whilst I enjoy it from a broadcasting point of view, I'm not a fan of Friday night football. It's just, I find it, first of all, Rouge fantasy team, get those done, by the way, as well, because otherwise you'll get in trouble. You'll miss the deadline and it's a nightmare. And twos are sometimes especially for the traveling fan. Traveling fan Friday night football is a huge pain. Imagine going to a game in London on a Friday night, having to try and get there. That would be, and then traveling home. What a pain. Anyway, Brentford versus Arsenal. Predictions. Start off with Tang. How do you see this one going?
It's going to be a classic 1-1 draw. I think
Nice.
Arsenal, Ben White will probably score. I imagine an overhead kick from 40 yards. And then I imagine, again, future Ballon d'Or winner Shandon Baptiste, former Oxford man, is going to score a goal too. I think Brentford are going to do, as many people on this podcast said before, I think Brentford are going to do better than people think. I think they've got a project going on there, which has been going on longer than just last year. It's been going on for a few years. I think they've got enough to stay, and I think they'll surprise a few people this year.
Interesting. Barnes, what's your prediction? Brentford or Arsenal or a draw?
I think Tang's actually made quite a good shout with 1-1, but I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal. I think quite a lot of the sort of Twitter reaction to this game is that Brentford are going to win. New stadium, brand new team in the Premier League. It's going to be a huge night for them, their biggest night in years. Friday night. Arsenal, let's face it, they have a calamity in them. You can just see it first game of the season. I don't know, Xhaka scores dive header into his own net or something like that. But no, I think Arsenal are, despite the negativity around the club, they're not as bad as people would make out, and neither is Mikel Arteta. And I think, although I see him as shaky, I think they'll be nervous coming into the game, especially with the atmosphere. I think they'll come through it. They might go behind and then score a couple of goals. So, yeah, 2-1 Arsenal.
Leif, what do you think? Brentford or Arsenal or a draw for the opening game?
I think a draw. I'm going to go 2-2. I think it'd be a great sort of first game for this Premier League season. It's good. It's a tough away game, tough first game at Brentford. Brentford are going to be up for it. A first game in the Premier League. Well, is it the first time they've been in the Premier League, or have they been in the Premier? Well,
it must be. I think it's the first time. Yeah, it's the first time.
So yeah, they're going to bang up for it. It's a difficult game for Arsenal. I'm expecting an entertaining game.
Interesting. Well, we'll probably talk about those predictions next week, and we'll see how well everyone does. I'm interested because I want to get to a point, and it depends on the limitations of the software that we use. I want to get to a point where on the podcast, especially as we get towards the end of the season, where we can get a video up that says like so-and-so is going to finish top of the league and they're going to win the league. And then you show it and then they just completely they're miles off. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So you can let us know your predictions for Brentford versus Arsenal in the comments section below. Be sure to like and subscribe while you're there. Also available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So if you prefer to listen and watch, you can listen to us there. Be sure to follow or subscribe, whatever platform you're using. Thank you very much for tuning in once again today. And we'll speak to you again very, very soon.